Sarah's hands didn't shake as she sutured the gunshot wound. They never did. But when her phone buzzed with a single message from an unknown number, her breath caught. Rooftop. Woo. Minutes. Bring your trauma kit. The hospital director had just fired her an hour ago. Called her reckless. Insubordinate. But someone else knew what she really was. And they were calling her back to work. Sarah Bennett walked through the sterile corridors of Metro General one last time. Her badge had already been deactivated. Her locker emptied. The cardboard box in her arms held 3 years of her life: a coffee mug, stethoscope, a photo of her niece. Dr. Harrison had made sure everyone watched her leave. "Nurses don't give orders to surgeons," he'd said in front of the entire staff. "You overstepped. You're done here," she hadn't argued. Couldn't. The patient had lived because she'd made the call. That was enough. The elevator doors opened. 5th floor. Cardiac wing. She stepped inside, alone. Her phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. "Extraction in progress. Asset is compromised. You have 3 minutes." Her jaw tightened. She pressed the button for the rooftop instead of the lobby. The hospital had no rooftop access for staff. But Sarah had memorized the blueprints her first week. Old habit. The service stairwell was locked. She pulled a small pick from her keychain. 15 seconds. The door clicked open. The stairwell smelled like rust and old paint. Her sneakers were silent on the concrete steps. 2 flights up. Her heart rate stayed at 62. Controlled, steady. She'd spent 6 years learning to control it. The rooftop door burst open. Cold wind hit her face. The city sprawled. Bill of traffic lights, noise. And in the center of the empty rooftop, a black helicopter. Rotors off. Waiting. A man in a dark suit stepped out. No badge visible. Earpiece glinting in the streetlights. "Captain Bennett, we need you." She didn't correct him. "Didn't say she wasn't a captain anymore. Hadn't been for 3 years? What's the situation?" she asked. "Federal courthouse, downtown, active shooter, 12 hostages. 3 are critical. SWAT can't get a medic inside without compromising the entry point." He handed her a tablet. Thermal imaging. Floor plans. "You've been inside that building before." She had once, a lifetime ago. "The hospital just fired me," she said quietly. "I know. We let them." He stepped aside. The helicopter's side door was open. A tactical vest and rifle lay on the seat. Her sighs. "You were getting too comfortable, Captain. Too visible." This was always temporary. Sorrel looked back at the hospital. Through the rooftop door, down 5 flights, past the ER, where she'd saved 17 lives in 3 years, past Dr. Harrison's office, past the staff who'd never know her real name. She climbed into the helicopter. "Kit's in the back," the man said. "Full surgical. You'll have 8 minutes inside before they breach." "I'll need 10. He almost smiled. "Then take 10. The rotors screamed to life. The city dropped away beneath them. Sarah opened the kit. Scalpels, sutures, chest seals. Hemostatic gauze. Everything she'd need. Everything she'd been trained to use in places. Far worse than a courthouse? Her phone buzzed one more time. Different number. A message from an old friend. "Welcome back, Ghost." She deleted it. Pulled on the vest. Checked the rifle's chamber. Empty. She never carried loaded. Not until she had to. The helicopter banked east. The courthouse was 7 minutes away. Sarah closed her eyes. Let herself remember. The weight of the rank. The responsibility. The missions that never made the news. If you're watching this, you've just discovered that some nurses carry more than stethoscopes. Hit subscribe to follow Sarah's story, because this is only the beginning. And before this night ends, everyone at Metro General will learn the truth about the woman they just fired. The helicopter descended into the dark. Asterisk. The helicopter touched down 3 blocks from the courthouse. Too close for protocol. Perfect for speed. Sarah jumped out before the skids fully settled. The tactical vest was heavier than she remembered. Or maybe she'd just gotten used to scrubs. The trauma kit slung over her shoulder weighed 40 pounds. She didn't feel it. Agent Morrison jogged beside her. Late 30s, buzzcat, the kind of face that forgot how to smile years ago. Shooters on the 3rd floor, East Wing. He's got a judge, 4 lawyers, 6 clerks, and a security guard. 3 gunshots reported. We don't know who's hit. Building schematics. Sarah's breath was steady. No wasted oxygen. Morrison handed her a phone. Memorize it. You've got 90 seconds before we're in position. The courthouse loomed ahead. Neoclassical columns. Marble steps. Surrounded by police vehicles, their lights painting the stone red and blue. Snipers on adjacent rooftops. SWAT van idling at the perimeter. Sarah studied the screen. 3 floors. East Wing was the circuit court. 2 staircases. 1 elevator. Windows facing the street. Ventilation system. Old building. Retrofitted HVAC. Crawl space access through the basement. That's my entry. Morrison stopped walking. Captain, the plan is to insert you with the breach team. The plan gets people killed. Sarah's voice was quiet. Absolute. Here's boots on the stairs. He starts shooting. I go in through the vents. Silent. He never knows I'm there until I'm behind him. And if he hears you in the ceiling, he won't. Morrison's jaw worked. He'd probably been an operator once. Before the suit and the earpiece, he recognized certainty when he heard it. You've got 8 minutes before SWAT breaches. After that, I can't control the situation. It'll be done in 6. They reached the perimeter. A sergeant started to wave them back. Morrison flashed a badge. Federal. The sergeant's hand dropped. Sarah scanned the building. 3rd floor, East Wing. Lights still on. Shadows moving behind the windows. She counted heartbeats. Measured distances. Calculated angles. The basement entrance was a side door. Chained. Rusted. Sarah knelt, pulled the pick set from her vest. The lock was older than she was. 20 seconds. The door swung open. Darkness below. The smell of mold and old paper. Radio silence once you're inside, Morrison said. We'll track your position, but we can't risk transmission. If he's monitoring police bands, I know. Sarah switched on the headlamp. Red light. Low signature. If I'm not out in 10 minutes, breach anyway. Don't wait for me. She descended into the basement before he could respond. The stairs were concrete. Cracked water damage in the corners. The building was dying slowly. Most old courthouses were. Not enough funding. Too much history. Her boots found every solid step. Avoided the loose ones. She'd learned that in Kandahar. In Mosul, in places that didn't exist on maps, the basement stretched into shadow. File boxes. Broken furniture. A furnace that hadn't run in years. And there, the ventilation access panel. 2 feet by 3 feet, screwed shut. Sarah set down the trauma kit. Drew a screwdriver from her vest. The screws came out smooth. Someone had removed them recently. Maintenance, probably. She made a mental note to thank them later. The duct was narrow, tight. She pushed the kit in first, then squeezed through. Her shoulders barely fit. The metal was cold against her arms. Dust choked the air. She crawled forward. 10 feet, 20, the duct branched. She went left. Toward the East Wing. Toward the sound of voices above. A woman was crying. Muffled. Terrified, a man shouted. Shut up. Shut up or I swear to God. Gunshot. The metal duct vibrated under Sarah's hands. Someone screamed. She moved faster. The duct climbed at a 45-degree angle. Her arms burned. The kit scraped behind her. She didn't slow down. Another junction. She checked the phone's blueprint. Memorized the path. Right turn. 30 feet straight. Then up through the ceiling, access into the courtroom's mechanical room. The voices were clearer now. The man was ranting. Something about a verdict. About injustice. The words didn't matter. Only the tone, high-pitched, erratic. He was escalating. Sarah reached the access panel. Directly above the mechanical room, she eased it open, inch by inch. Silent, the room below was dark. Shelves of cleaning supplies. Mop bucket. The door to the courtroom was closed. Light leaked underneath. Sarah dropped through the opening. Landed in a crouch. Absorbed the impact through her legs. The trauma kit followed. She caught it before it hit the ground. 6 minutes left. She pressed her ear to the door. Counted voices. 12 hostages. Morrison had been right. One shooter. Male. Pacing. Agitated. And underneath it, all a wet, rattling breath. Someone was dying. Sarah's hands moved to the kit. Opened it. Drew out what she needed, then she opened the door. Asterisk, the courtroom opened before her. High ceilings. Wood paneling. The kind of room where justice was supposed to happen? Not tonight. 12 people huddled against the far wall. Hands zip-tied. A man in a security uniform lay on the floor. Blood pooled beneath his shoulder. His breathing was shallow. Shock setting in. The shooter stood at the windows. 32, maybe 35. Thin, shaking, holding a pistol like it was the only solid thing in his world. He hadn't heard the door. Sarah moved like water, silent, smooth. She crossed 10 feet before anyone noticed her. A woman in a gray suit gasped. The shooter spun around. Who the hell? His gun came up. Barrel pointed at Sarah's chest. She didn't stop walking. Didn't reach for a weapon. Just kept moving toward the security guard. I'm a nurse. He's bleeding out. I'm here to stop that. I didn't call for a nurse. I know. Sarah knelt beside the guard, pressed 2 fingers to his neck. Pulse thready. Skin cold and clammy. But he's got maybe 4 minutes before his blood pressure drops too low. Then his organs shut down. Then he dies. And you don't want that. The shooter's hand trembled. Don't tell me what I want. You fired 1 shot into the ceiling. Sarah opened her trauma kit, drew out gauze and scissors. 1 into the wall. 1 into his shoulder. Non-lethal placement. You're not trying to kill anyone. You're trying to be heard. Shut up. I'm going to cut his shirt off now. Sarah's voice was steady, matter of fact. She'd used this tone in Baghdad. In Kabul. In a dozen places where panic was contagious and calm was the only cure. Then I'm going to pack the wound. Stop the bleeding. You can watch. You can point that gun at me the whole time. But I'm not leaving until he's stable. The shooter's eyes darted to the hostages. Back to Sarah. To the blood on the floor. You shouldn't be here. Neither should you. Sarah cut away the guard's uniform shirt. The entry wound was clean, through and thrown. Missed the subclavian artery by inches. He was lucky. What's your name? Why do you care? Because right now, you're just the shooter. I'd rather know who I'm talking to. Silence. Then quietly, Marcus. Marcus. Sarah packed the wound with gauze. The guard groaned, still unconscious. Good. I'm Sarah. And this man you shot, his name is David Chen. He's got 2 daughters. I've seen their photos in the hospital break room. He moonlights in the ER on weekends for extra money. School tuition. Marcus's gun hand dropped an inch. I didn't mean to, I know. Sarah applied pressure, direct, firm. But intent doesn't stop bleeding. Actions do. She looked up at him, held his gaze. So here's what happens next. I stabilize David. You let these people go. And then we talk about what brought you here. The system brought me here. Marcus's voice cracked. I lost everything. My house. My kids. And that judge, he pointed the gun at a gray-haired man in robes. He didn't even look at the evidence. Just signed the papers. Took my life away. Sarah wrapped the wound, tight, clean. Her hands moved with precision, born from 1,000 traumas. I can't fix the system, Marcus. I can't give you back what you lost. But I can tell you that pulling that trigger again won't give you anything except more nightmares. You don't know what I've been through? No, I don't. Sarah sat back on her heels, blood on her hands. But I know what David's daughters will go through if he doesn't make it. I know what you'll go through in a 6-byte cell, replaying this moment for the rest of your life. I know that right now you still have a choice. Marcus stared at her. The gun wavered. Why aren't you afraid? I am. It was true. Sarah could feel her heart rate climbing. 70 beats per minute? 80. Fear was useful. It sharpened focus. But I'm more afraid of what happens if I don't try to help. Both of you. Outside, the sound of movement. SWAT, getting into position. 4 minutes had passed. Maybe 5. Marcus heard it too. They're coming. Yes, I'm not going to prison. Sarah stood slowly. Hands visible, non-threatening, and don't give them a reason to send you there. Put down the gun. Let these people go home to their families. Let David get to a hospital. Let yourself have a chance at something other than this. It's too late. It's not. Sarah took 1 step forward. I've seen men make worse choices than you. I've held their hands while they bled out on foreign soil, whispering apologies to people who'd never hear them. You still have time, Marcus. Use it. The gun shook in his hand. His face crumpled. I just wanted someone to listen. I'm listening. For a moment, the courtroom held its breath. 12 hostages. 1 shooter. 1 nurse who'd talked down armed combatants in 3 different war zones. Marcus's hand opened. The gun clattered to the floor. Sarah moved fast. She kicked the weapon away. Knelt beside it. Didn't pick it up. Just kept it out of reach while Marcus collapsed against the wall, sobbing. It's over, she said quietly. To him, to the hostages. To herself. The courtroom doors exploded inward. SWAT poured through. Rifles up, shouting commands. They swarmed Marcus. Forced him down. Zip-tied his wrists. Sarah stayed with David. Checked his pulse. Still there? Stronger now. The packing had worked. A SWAT officer approached her. Ma'am, we need you to exit. He needs an ambulance. 2 units of O-negative. And tell them he's got a through-and through GSW to the left shoulder. I've controlled the bleeding, but he needs surgery within the hour. The officer blinked. Who are you? Sarah picked up her trauma kit. Walked toward the door. Just a nurse. But Morrison was waiting in the hallway. And behind him, something Sarah hadn't expected. Dr. Harrison, from Metro General. Flanked by 2 hospital administrators, their faces pale, confused. Sarah. Harrison's voice was small. What are you doing here? She didn't answer. Couldn't, because behind them, stepping out of the elevator, was a woman in a crisp army uniform. 3 stars on her shoulder. Lieutenant General Patricia Vance, commander of the Joint Special Operations Task Force, and she was looking directly at Sarah. The hallway fell silent. SWAT officers moved past, escorting hostages. Paramedics rushed toward David Chen. The chaos of the aftermath swirled around them, but Dr. Harrison only saw Sarah and the 3-star general. Walking toward her, Captain Bennett. General. Vance's voice cut through the noise, formal, respectful. Well done. Sarah straightened. Old reflexes. Muscle memory from years of service. Thank you, ma'am. Harrison's mouth opened, closed. Captain. Dr. Harrison. Vance turned to him. Her gaze was steel. I believe you terminated Captain Bennett's employment this afternoon. Something about insubordination? Ah, yes. But Harrison looked at Sarah. At the blood on her hands. The tactical vest. The trauma kit. I don't understand. Of course you don't. Vance's tone could freeze water. Captain Bennett has been working at your hospital for 3 years as part of a federal integration program, helping our special operations medical personnel transition back to civilian life, learning to operate in low-resource environments, staying sharp, special operations. The hospital administrator stepped forward. Ms. Chen. She ran HR. Sarah was a nurse. She doesn't have military Captain Sarah Bennett. Vance's words were crisp. Final. 8 years with the 75th Ranger Regiment. For years attached to Delta Force as a Special Operations Combat Medic, 37 missions across 6 theaters of operation, Silver Star, Bronze Star, with Valor, 2 Purple Hearts. She paused. And you fired her for saving a patient's life. The hallway seemed to tilt. Harrison steadied himself against the wall. That's impossible. She never mentioned she wasn't supposed to. Morrison stepped forward. Showed his badge. FBI. Captain Bennett's assignment at Metro General was classified. She was there to assess hospital protocols, train in civilian trauma response. And yes, to stay anonymous. You just compromised 3 years of work, Sarah finally spoke. It's fine. She looked at Harrison. Not angry? Just tired. The assignment was ending anyway. This just accelerated the timeline. But you. Harrison's face was red. Embarrassment. Shame. You let me fire you. You didn't say anything. I couldn't. And you were right about one thing, Doctor. Sarah's voice was soft. I did overstep. I gave orders. Made command decisions. Called in a surgical team without authorization? She paused. Because that patient had a tension pneumothorax and 30 seconds to live. In my world, you don't wait for permission to save lives. Your world. Miss Chen looked pale. You've been lying to us for 3 years? No. Vance stepped between them. Protective. She's been serving. There's a difference. Every shift Captain Bennett worked at your hospital was real. Every patient she saved was real. The only thing that wasn't real was the idea that she was just a nurse. Just a nurse. Sarah smiled, sad. Nurses are some of the most skilled people in any hospital. They see what doctors miss. They catch errors. They keep patients alive when everyone else has gone home. She looked at Harrison. I learned more from your nurses in 3 years than I learned in 8 years of military medicine. So please don't diminish what they do. Harrison had no words. Neither did Miss Chen. General Vance checked her watch. Captain, we need to debrief. The asset situation is contained, but there's paperwork, statements, the usual bureaucratic nightmare. Yes, ma'am. Sarah started to follow, then stopped. Turned back to Harrison. For what it's worth, Doctor, you run a good ER. Your staff is excellent. The care is top tier. I wouldn't have spent 3 years there if it wasn't. She adjusted the trauma kit on her shoulder. I hope you'll reconsider the way you talk to your nurses. They're the backbone of your hospital. Treat them that way. She walked away, Vance beside her. Morrison trailing behind. Harrison stood in the empty hallway, surrounded by police tape and the lingering smell of gunpowder. His phone buzzed. A text from the chief of surgery. Did you really fire Sarah Bennett? The FBI is here asking questions. What the hell's going on? He had no answer. Sarah sat in a black SUV 3 blocks away. The debrief had been quick, efficient. The FBI would handle Marcus. David Chen would recover. The hostages were safe. Mission complete. You didn't have to do that. Morrison sat across from her. Defend the hospital. They fired you. They didn't know any better. Sarah stared out the window. The courthouse was lit up like a crime scene. Because it was. And Harrison isn't wrong. I did overstep repeatedly. I just couldn't stop being what I am. A soldier. A medic. Sarah pulled off the tactical vest. Her scrubs were still underneath. Blood-stained now. From David Chen. From 100 other patients. Soldiers fight. Medics save. Sometimes those lines blur. But I always knew which side I was on. Vance leaned forward. The Army needs people like you, Captain. Special Operations Command is expanding its combat medical program. We want you to lead the training division. Fort Bragg. Full rank restoration. Command position. Sarah had known this was coming. The assignment at Metro General had been temporary. A bridge between 2 lives. She'd always known she'd have to choose eventually. Can I think about it? She asked. Vance smiled. Rare. You've earned that right. Take a week. Call me. She handed Sarah a card. Direct line. But Sarah, whatever you choose, know that you've made a difference. In combat, in that hospital. Tonight, you save people. That's who you are. The uniform doesn't change that. The SUV stopped. Sarah's apartment building. Modest. Quiet. Home. She stepped out. The trauma kit felt heavier now. Or maybe she was just finally feeling the weight of 3 years of secrets. Morrison rolled down the window. For what it's worth, Captain. I'd want you in my corner any day. Sarah nodded. Watched the SUV drive away. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. Then opened the message. Dr. Harrison here. The chief of surgery wants to meet with you tomorrow. 9 a.m. Before you make any decisions about the Army, please come. We need to talk. James Harris and Sarah looked up at her apartment. Dark windows. Empty rooms. A life that had never quite felt real. Then she looked back at her phone. At the hospital where she'd spent 3 years learning to be human again. Learning that healing didn't always happen on battlefields. She had a decision to make. But first, she needed sleep. Real sleep. The kind that came after a mission ended and everyone made it home alive. Tomorrow would bring its own battles. Tonight, she'd rest. Sarah arrived at Metro General at 8:45 a.m., 15 minutes early. Old habit. The lobby felt different now. Or maybe she felt different. She wasn't wearing scrubs. Just jeans and a sweater. Civilian clothes. Anonymous. The security guard at the desk, Carlos. She remembered his name, did a double take. Sarah, I heard you were. I mean, the news said. Is it true? You're military. Word traveled fast. Probably FBI interviews. Probably Harrison unable to keep his mouth shut. Was military, Sarah said gently. Now I'm just trying to figure out what comes next. Carlos nodded slowly. Well, for what it's worth, you were the best nurse we had. Everyone knows it. Thank you, Carlos. She took the elevator to the 5th floor, administrative wing. Dr. Harrison's office was at the end of the hall. The door was open. He stood when she entered, formal, uncomfortable. Sarah, thank you for coming, said the chief of surgery wanted to meet. She stayed in the doorway, ready to leave. He does. But first, I owe you an apology. Harrison gestured to a chair. Waited until she sat. I was wrong. About yesterday. About the way I handled the situation. About the things I said in front of the staff. Sarah said nothing. Let him continue. I've been thinking about what you said. About nurses. About respecting them. Harrison sat down heavily. He looked older today. Tired. I've been a surgeon for 20 years. And somewhere along the way, I forgot that medicine isn't about hierarchy. It's about patience. About outcomes. About doing whatever it takes to save lives. You're a good surgeon, Sarah said quietly. I've watched you work. You're skilled, precise. You care about your patients. But I don't trust my team. The admission seemed to cost him something. I micromanage. I see. And when you made that call about the pneumothorax, when you took command of my oar, he met her eyes. You were right. And I couldn't handle being wrong. The clock on the wall ticked. Seconds passing. The space between them filled with 3 years of unspoken tension. I don't need an apology, Sarah finally said. I need you to do better. For the nurses, for the staff, they're good people. They deserve a leader who trusts them. I know. Harrison stood, which is why I asked the chief of surgery to come here today. And the hospital director? And the board. Sarah's stomach tightened. What did you do? I told them the truth. All of it. The door opened. 3 people entered. Dr. Michael Rhodes, chief of surgery. 65 beard, sharp eyes. Maria Gonzalez, hospital director, 50, efficient no nonsense. And Robert Chen, board chairman, 70. David Chen's father, Sarah stood. Mr. Chen, I'm so sorry about David. You saved my son's life. His voice shook. The FBI told me everything. What you did in that courtroom. How you talked that man down. How you stopped the bleeding. He stepped forward. Took her hands. Thank you. Thank you for bringing him home to my granddaughters. Sarah felt something crack open in her chest. The professional distance she'd maintained for 3 years. I'm just glad he's okay. He's asking for you, Robert Chen said. He's in recovery. Room 412. He wants to thank you himself. Dr. Rhodes cleared his throat. Captain Bennett, we've reviewed your service record. The portions that aren't classified, at least. We've also reviewed your 3 years at Metro General. Your patient outcomes. Your response times. The way you trained junior staff. He paused. You're the most qualified trauma specialist we've ever had. And we let Dr. Harrison fire you over a decision that saved a patient's life. It was a complicated situation. No, it wasn't. Maria Gonzalez stepped forward. It was a simple situation that Dr. Harrison made complicated because of ego. We've addressed that formally, but more importantly, we're here to ask if you'd consider returning to Metro General. Not as a staff nurse. As our Director of Trauma Services, the room tilted, Sarah sat down. Director. Full administrative authority over the ER and trauma department, Rhodes continued. You'd oversee protocols, training, staff development. And yes, you'd still work clinical shifts. We know you're a medic at heart, but we need someone who can transform our emergency response. Someone who's seen real trauma, real chaos. Someone who knows how to lead under pressure. Sarah looked at Harrison. He nodded. I recommended you for the position. After I swallowed my pride and admitted that you're 10 times the leader I am in crisis situations, have an offer from the Army, Sarah said slowly. Special Operations Command? Training Division. Fort Bragg, we know, Gonzalez said. General Vance called this morning. Said you had a decision to make. Said we should make our best pitch. She smiled. So here it is. Stay here. Build something lasting. Not just for one platoon or one mission, but for a community. For thousands of patients every year. For the staff who look up to you. And before you say no, Robert Chen added, consider that my son is alive because you were in the right place at the right time. How many other David Chens are out there? How many other families need someone like you in their corner? Sarah's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. A text from a number she recognized now. Morrison, the FBI agent. David Chen is awake. Says he won't eat hospital food until you come visit. You created a monster. Despite everything, Sarah smiled. She looked up at the 4 people watching her, waiting for an answer. I need to think about it. And I need to visit a patient, but she stood. Thank you for this. For believing that I'm more than just my rank. You were never just your rank, Rhodes said. You're a healer. Everything else is just details. Sarah walked out of the office. Down the hall. Past nurses she'd worked with. Past residents she'd trained. Past the ER, where she'd spent 3 years proving herself. Room 412 was on the 4th floor. Cardiac recovery. She took the stairs. David Chen was sitting up in bed when she entered. Shoulder bandaged. Face pale but smiling. There she is. My hero. I'm not a hero, Sarah said. Pulled up a chair. I'm just someone who knows how to pack a wound. The FBI said you talked down an armed gunman. That you crawled through air ducts. That you're some kind of secret special forces medic. He shook his head. And I thought you were just the quiet nurse who always worked the overnight. Shifts. I am the quiet nurse who works overnight. Shifts who also saves hostages in her spare time.
Sarah
Laughed, real, unguarded. Okay, maybe? That too, they talked for 20 minutes. About his daughters. About his recovery. About the surgery he'd need next week. Normal things. Hospital things. When Sarah finally left, she felt lighter. She stood in the hospital lobby. Looked up at the floors above. The ER on 1. Surgery on 2. Recovery on 4. Every floor filled with people who needed help. Who deserved someone fighting for them. Her phone buzzed again. General Vance. No pressure, Captain. But if you decide on Fort Bragg, I need to know by Friday. We start training cycles next month, Sarah typed a reply. Understood. I'll call you tomorrow. Then she opened a new message. To Dr. Harrison, I need 24 hours. But I want to hear more about this director position. What are the terms? She hit send, walked out into the sunlight, and for the first time in 3 years, Sarah Bennett wasn't sure which uniform she was supposed to wear, but she knew one thing: wherever she went, she'd be saving lives. That was the only mission that mattered. 24 hours later, Sarah stood in the Metro General Conference Room, the same room where she had attended staff meetings for 3 years, where she'd stayed quiet while doctors debated, where she'd learned to be invisible. Not anymore. The room was packed. Dr. Rhodes, Maria Gonzalez, Robert Chen, Dr. Harrison, and half the nursing staff. They'd heard rumors, whispers. The quiet nurse wasn't so quiet after all. Thank you all for coming. Sarah's voice was steady, clear. I know there's been a lot of confusion about who I am, what I've been doing here. So I want to be transparent. She pulled up a slide. Her service record. Declassified portions only. My name is Captain Sarah Bennett. I served 8 years with Army Special Operations. 4 of those years were spent in combat zones as a Ranger qualified medic attached to counterterrorism units. I've treated battlefield trauma, civilian casualties, and mass casualty events in places most people have never heard of. The nurses stared. Jenna, who'd worked overnight shifts with Sarah for 2 years, looked stunned. You never said anything. I couldn't. My assignment here was part of a federal program helping special operations personnel transition to civilian medicine. I was here to learn from you, to understand how trauma care works in resource-rich environments, to remember what it's like to save lives without bullets flying. Marcus, one of the residents, raised his hand. Is it true you talked down an armed gunman at the courthouse? Yes, but that's not why I'm here today. Sarah advanced the slide. I'm here because I have a decision to make, and it affects all of you. She explained the Army's offer. Command position. Fort Bragg. Training the next generation of combat medics. It's a good offer. Important work. Lives saved in future conflicts. Then she explained Metro General's offer. Director of Trauma Services. Authority to reshape protocols. To train staff. To build something lasting. It's also important work. Also, lives saved. Dr. Rhodes leaned forward. Have you made your decision? Sarah looked at the faces around the table. Jenna, who'd taught her how to calm anxious patients. Marcus, who'd learned triage from her. Dr. Harrison, who'd finally learned to listen. All the people who'd become more than colleagues over 3 years. I have. She took a breath. I'm staying here. At Metro General. The room erupted. Questions, applause, relief. Sarah raised her hand, waited for silence. But I have conditions. If I'm going to be Director of Trauma Services, we do this right. No more hierarchy that prevents nurses from speaking up. No more ignoring good medical judgment because it comes from someone without doctor in front of their name. We're a team. We act like one. Harrison nodded. Agreed. And I want rotating training. Every doctor, every nurse, every resident spends time in our simulation lab learning combat trauma protocols. Not because we're a war zone, but because the principles of damage control, resuscitation, rapid assessment, and team communication save lives everywhere. Rhodes smiled. Already approved. Maria Gonzalez stood. There's one more thing, Captain Bennett. We received a call this morning from the State Medical Board. And from the Pentagon. She pulled out a document. Official letterhead. Given your exceptional service and documented expertise, they're fast-tracking your civilian medical credentials. You'll be board certified in emergency medicine within 6 months. Which means she'll be Dr. Bennett, Robert Chen finished. The youngest director of trauma services in this hospital's history, and the most qualified. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes, held them back. I'm not doing this for a title. I'm doing this because hospitals like Metro General save lives every single day, quietly, without medals or recognition. And that work matters just as much as anything I did in uniform. More, Jenna said quietly, because you're choosing us. You could have gone back to the army, back to the action. But you're staying here. With us? Sarah nodded. Because you taught me something these past 3 years. You taught me that healing isn't just about stopping bleeding or restarting hearts. It's about being present. About showing up for people on the worst days of their lives and helping them find hope. That's what nurses do. That's what you all do. And I want to keep doing it alongside you. The meeting ended. People filed out, congratulating her, welcoming her back, promising to support the changes she wanted to make. Dr. Harrison stayed behind. I meant what I said yesterday. You're a better leader than I am, no, Sarah said. I'm just a different kind of leader. You're brilliant in the OR. Focused, precise. But I've learned to lead teams where everyone's voice matters. Where the youngest private's observation can save a mission. We need both kinds of leadership here. He extended his hand. Welcome back, Director Bennett. She shook it. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Thank you for not holding a grudge. 3 months later, Sarah stood in the ER at 2 a.m., the quiet hours. When the city slept and only emergencies remained, a trauma came in. Car accident. Multiple casualties. Chaos. But this time, it was different. The team moved like a unit. Nurses calling out vitals without hesitation. Residents making decisions without waiting for attending approval. Dr. Harrison, listening to Sarah's assessment and nodding, agreed. Or 2, let's move. Jenna caught Sarah's eye as they wheeled the patient away. Smiled. This was what 3 months of new protocols looked like. This was what trust looked like. 4 hours later, all 3 patients were stable. Surgery successful. Families notified, Sarah walked out of the hospital as dawn broke. The city waking up. Coffee shops opening. People heading to work, her phone buzzed. General Vance, heard you're kicking ass at Metro General. Proud of you, Captain. If you ever change your mind, the door's always open, Sarah replied. Thank you, ma'am. But I think I found where I belong. She looked back at the hospital. 7 floors of fluorescent lights and second chances. Of doctors learning humility and nurses finding their voices. Of patients who'd never know that the quiet woman who held their hand had once held rifles. That was fine. Sarah didn't need them to know. She just needed them to live. She walked to her car, exhausted, satisfied. Home, somewhere in the building behind her, an alarm went off. A code blew. Another crisis. Another chance to save a life, Sarah. Bennett smiled, turned around, and went back inside, because some battles weren't fought with bullets. They were fought with skill, compassion, and the quiet determination of people who refused to let death win. People like nurses, like doctors, like medics who'd learned that healing was the greatest mission of all, and Sarah Bennett, captain, director. And the woman who'd crawled through air ducts to save a security guard's life was exactly where she needed to be. If you've made it this far, you've discovered the truth about the secret medic, that sometimes the most powerful warriors are the ones who choose healing over fighting, who choose community over glory, who choose to save lives in hospital hallways instead of battlefields. Hit subscribe to follow. More stories of the extraordinary people hiding in plain sight. And remember, the person taking your vitals. The nurse who seems to calm during chaos. The quiet professional who never talks about their past. They might be carrying secrets that would change everything. You think you know about heroes? The end. Or maybe just the beginning. Because Sarah Bennett's story is far from over, and neither are the stories of the countless medics, nurses, and healers who serve in silence every single day. Thank you for watching.